Good morning everyone and welcome along to the Sepang International Circuit in Malaysia for the final rounds of this year's Fanatec GT World Challenge Asia, powered by AWS. It's the first time that we finish our championship at a mainstay of the championships calendar across the years so far. And it is a very, very exciting weekend with 4 drivers coming in to the possibility of taking the championship. The circuit is 5.5 kilometers in length, 25 years old this year, and obviously hosted the Formula One World Championship for 19 races up until the mid-2010s. It is a 15-corner circuit and highly technical. Plenty of sweeping fourth gear bends, and of course that final corner that we can see here, which was modified in 2016 to give it an extra challenge. A grid of 30 cars greets us, and we are going to kick off in a few moments' time with our GT3 qualifying session. A little change from the norm. Usually we would have GT4s out first, but we're going to have the GT3 cars qualify for their 2 separate races. One race on Saturday, one race on Sunday. And there is a driver looking to wrap up a championship. Prince Abu Bakar Ibrahim, his brother, was runner-up last year, and this year he hopes to go one better. A different teammate this weekend in the 88 JMR. Miguel Grenier joins for the 2nd race in succession. Track temperature 35 degrees, a little bit of running this morning from a local support series, and we have 30 degrees air temperature, which was blue sky, but just a little bit of cloud cover coming over. Very unpredictable weather in this part of the world. You never quite know what you're going to get. Huge amounts of rain for the testing sessions, and it should have rained yesterday, but luckily free practice was dry. Verticorn Interpruzisak was runner-up in 2019, sits on the top of our standings by just a single point, and therefore really it is himself and the car at the front of screen, Craft Bamboo's Anthony Liu, who is fighting for that championship. They have one single point separating the two of them, and then Prince Abu Bakar is a little bit further away, needs to do a little bit more work, 16 points back. And then Lu Wei is the only other driver here this weekend that could wrap up the championship as the winner. 27 points back, though. He needs a really big score in the number 4 R&B Racing Porsche to keep his championship alive moving into Sunday. 2 other drivers who mathematically could find themselves at the top of the standings, however, are not with us because they have other important things. The pro drivers of Luke Stoltz and Alessio Piccarello both not here, and therefore will stay on their 95 points. So mathematically could win the championship, but they actually needed to be here to do so. Piccarello's name still aboard Vitacorn's Porsche. But his teammate this weekend, as he has had done a couple of times this year already, he will be joined by Klaus Bachler. It was Klaus Bachler who was able to take the only victory for that car this year, winning the first race in Suzuka. It's been a story of consistency for Vitacorn, with 6 podiums across the races that we've had so far, 10 rounds in total. But we only have 2 rounds left to finish our season. Green flag at the end of pit lane, and our 15-minute session gets underway. As we've seen already in previous rounds, expect the fastest laps to come on lap 2 or 3 of the tyre. And of course, we have different categories out on circuit. The Pro-Am entries have their Am drivers in for this first session. The All-Am entries, of of course, have a flexibility as to which AM to put in. And we do have a couple of silver class entries this weekend, and therefore they are 2 silver class drivers. And in this session, that means that they are likely to be the faster of our teams. Watch out then for the 29 and the 87. New colours to get used to. Phantom Pro running with a much more MGM style of livery. And here is a brand new car to our championship, the 62 Be Quick Absolute Racing, adding another 2 cars to their stable. In total running, I think, 6 cars across 2 separate brands. 2 Be Quick machines, the 26 and the 62. And then they also have the AAS Motorsports Porsche. And they have 2 other Audis as well, known as Audi Sport Asia Team Absolute, the number 11 and the number 13. So these drivers will get themselves used to their new tyre over this next lap, and then expect to push on their second laps. And if they haven't quite mastered that, then there might be another opportunity to go again. But the best of the tyre really is on the second lap, and Anthony Liu has himself clear track in the number 37. Nobody ahead of him. And for the man who's chasing that championship, just a single point ahead of Vutterkorn, he needs to do his maximum. It's going to be very, very hard for him to be able to win the championship today in race 1. But he'll give himself the best possible opportunity. He's actually being followed by Interpuvasak in the 911. On track as well is it in the standings. It's a nice little psychological bit of pressure for Anthony to deal with. Championship rival hanging over his shoulders. Lights flashing, a little bit of traffic ahead of us as we have a chance really to look at this layout for the first time. Unchanged since the circuit was built back 25 years ago. Is Anthony going to get caught out by this traffic? Yes, he is. Oh, dearie me. Just very unlucky to catch the Porsche in the number 30, just at the wrong point then. And Tara Zhao in the Modena Motorsports Porsche. And I think Anthony may lose a little bit of time as we now go through these sweepers at the back of the circuit. Very, very flat curves here in Malaysia. Built, of course, for bikes mainly. 130,000 fans here in just a couple of weeks' time for the final round of MotoGP. And so the GT cars look at those curves and think, well, they're not going to trouble me at all. I will be able to monster them. Love that camera shot of turn 15. Opportunity to see just how much off camber that corner has, where the inside of the corner is higher than the outside, and therefore it has the sensation of pushing the car away from the apex. And Trapudzac must have backed out of the lap on that last sector, because he's ended up 4 seconds slower than Anthony Liu. As we now turn our attention to another of our championship challengers. Prince Abu Bakr in the Mercedes, and Sector 1 and Sector 2 a good chunk faster than what's been set before. Fastest time at the moment is the number 11 Audi Sport Asia Team Absolute. Andrew Harrianto at the wheel of that car. He has been bettered in the first sector by Anthony Liu on his second attempt. But Prince Abu Bakr comes to the line then, and he's got clear track around him. Triple Eight go to the head of the standings by 1.6 seconds. A 2 minutes 4.9 is now the target for the rest of them to beat. We should be keeping an eye on those drivers on the left-hand sidebar that have silver backgrounds to their name, because in theory, if the driver gradings are totally accurate to real life, they are our most experienced drivers that we have in this grid of cars for Q1. Anthony Liu breaks into the final turn. A little bit of understeer through the first part of that turn 15. It's pushed him very, very wide. He won't have been able to get the power down towards the line. Does go fastest though, but you get the feeling that that could be an even better lap time. Indra Puthasak can only manage third position. And further behind, the 992 Absolute Racing Porsche, his teammate of Yinglong Bao, up to 5th position. Anthony Liu holds on. Haryanto improves on his second lap time up to 3rd position. That number 11 machine of Haryanto and James Yao, one of 7 drivers, one of 7 combinations to win across the season so far. Absolute having a really, really good time of things this year. Prince Abu Bakr. I think he might have backed out of that final corner. Didn't look particularly strong through the final apex. Comes to the line then. I'm totally wrong, he goes fastest. Mercedes now back to the top, and a Malaysian at the head of the field with half the session still remaining. Prince Abu Bakr Ibrahim from Anthony Liu are 2 of our 4 championship challenges. Then we have the first of our silvers, as expected. Phantom Pro Racing's Kang Ling up to 3rd now, and only 0.2 of a second off. Now the last attempt from Yinglong Bao was very strong. Again, it's just so hard to nail that last turn. And a second off in the middle sector, drifts to 1.2 off by the end of the lap, so stays in 8th position, gets deposed down to 9th as another of our silver cars comes over the line. And Andrew Haryanto improves once again, the number 11. There is that funky livery of Audi Sport Asia. Victory in the first race in Motegi at the end of July with James Yu, and the combination of Haryanto and Yu looking strong here as well. First look at our Phantom Pro liveries. Completely different to what we've been used to throughout the season. They do look lovely though. And Chris Chayon gets himself over the line. 1.5 seconds back. Now teammate behind him, that is Kang Ling, up to 3rd now. So still behind Haryanto and Liu is the best of our silver, just 2.5 back. And actually Haryanto 2.5 clear of the rest of the field. They're finding time around this circuit, just over 2 minutes a lap, but there is still opportunity to improve here. Anthony Liu in the Craft Bamboo Mercedes, championship challenger. The nose dips as he brakes hard into this final chicane, drops it down to second gear. Despite the low speeds of some of these corners, never dropping down into first gear. Such is the grunt of that Mercedes. Liu up to second position, reduces the gap down to 1/10 of a second. Inch-Puvacak doesn't have an answer for him, only 6th spot right now. But I tell you what, from the AM qualifying, this is incredibly strong from Liu and Haryanto, really the cork in the bottle here, because it's not part of the championship. Neither is his teammate, so it's not as though he can really help the team much. We've got Liu in second, Abubakar in 4th of our championship challengers, Wei Lu in 6th position, and then the final one of our championship challenges, Vitakorn, down in 7th spot. So they're all in the top 10. And here's a new car for us to feast our eyes upon. Welcome to Harmony Racing. Great to have the team with us this weekend. A car that is used to being used around the Sepang circuit. Was raced last in the Sepang 12 hours at the start of the year. And then put in the container, and we think it probably stayed here until being wheeled out this weekend. Although quite a significantly different car, unfortunately, to what started the weekend, because a pretty hefty shunt in testing meant that they completely missed yesterday's free practice sessions, whilst they rebuilt the car with parts flown in from China, would you believe? So we won't expect Harmony Racing necessarily to be at the sharp end today. Lots of catching up to do. Yingron Bao, 992 Porsche, teammate to Inch-Puvacak. 12th position at the last attempt, does improve up to 9th. Anthony Liu, though, I can hear underneath my commentary position, has called it a day. Leader of the championship, second in qualifying here, feels he's got nothing left. So will start at best in second, but there are cars out on circuit like Akishnandi who can still improve. Up to 4th position for the 62 machine. Now that is one of various cars that are new to the championship this weekend. It actually does mean that they won't score points. We've got 6 cars on the track that won't score points. Not that one though. And look at that stunning, stunning livery. Brand new chassis after the rather large accident last time out at Okayama for Wambo. And saw the chassis, the bare chassis from Okayama being carted around the Malaysian paddock last night, and you can understand why they needed a new one. An absolute mess from the very bare chassis. So, a new car. On board with Inch-Puvacak, coasting, I think, back to the pits. Interestingly, looks like Anthony Yu is actually headed back out on circuit. Just half a minute left of the session. Not quite sure why you would do that. Maybe something that Craft Bamboo have changed for the next session, and he's just going to give that a bit of a feel before he hands the car over to Danny Ukudela. Vitakorn into Puvacak, heads to pit lane. A tricky pit lane, if you ask David Coulthard. You may remember he crashed in the pits here in Malaysia. Might have not been the only one as well. Checker flag flying then. End of the session. Jeffrey Lee comes over the line and does not improve. Stays 20th spot in the Mercedes. for that has been a very strong qualifying for Haryanto. Audi Sport Asia Team Absolute. Andrew Haryanto, the Indonesian, on the pole position for race 1 this afternoon. Oh no! Oh, the Ferrari's in the gravel. So little running for those two drivers, Ru Reihao and Xing Yanbin, and they are really kind of behind the 8 ball, really. And I'm afraid we're going to have to drag that car out the gravel. As it happens, we'll have a small gap between Q1 and the second of our qualifying sessions, so it shouldn't really disturb us too much. And the good news is it doesn't look like there's any damage to that Ferrari either. Just run on and into the gravel trap. I think that might actually be at the start of the lap as well, where they had their accident yesterday. There's the pole position car and a chance to get a little bit closer to the cartoon ducks that are on the fenders and doors of this absolute racing machine. It's a shame when you're on a wide shot or on a photo you can't make out what the colourings are on the doors and the wings, but now we're a little bit closer. You can see this very, very unique design and livery. Andrew Haryanto will be out of that car, and it'll now be the turn of James Yu, the silver driver. Cool, huh? But James Yu, a very different prospect for him in Q2, because in Q2, in all the Pro-Am category driving combinations, you have the pro drivers getting into the cars, and therefore the pace and intensity of qualifying in the second qualifying very, very different to the first. Audi, Mercedes, Audi, Audi, Mercedes in the top 5. Rest of the Porsches. 6th spot for the number 4 Lu Wei. And okay, so we're at turn number 14. Just loses the rear end, and around she goes. Like many of the corners here in Sepang, you're carrying speed all the way through the corner into the apex, and it's so easy just to lose the rear end like that. Let's go down then to the pit lane, where Andrew Haryanto is with Amy. Well done.
Andrew, super strong start into the weekend. Congratulations on your pole position. How do you feel?
Content. Yeah, I guess.
How was the feeling of the driving? And it must have felt like a flying lap.
The team did a very good job in setting up the car, especially for qualifying. So we had a 2-lap window, and that's it. I mean, we had to just use that one. So it was very sharp, but I think we made the best out of it.
And you have a super strong teammate as well. What are you looking forward to this weekend?
Top 5, maybe? Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
All the best luck then.
Thank you.
Back to you.
Thank you very much, Amy. Top 5, I think it's highly realistic from a pole position. And let's not forget that Rio Haryanto is the bronze driver in that lineup, so in theory James Yu can go even faster than a 2:04.1, which was our pole time. Haryanto on the pole, Andrew Liu in second position. Best of our silvers ended up 3rd spot only, so Ling Kang was silver in 3rd, and then Akish Nandi joining us for the first time, the Malaysian, knowing the track very well, doesn't score points, so at the end of the race, wherever they finish, their car becomes almost a ghost. Everyone else behind would move up, but he will start on the outside of row 2. Abu Bakar ended up in 5th position, and in 6th was Lu Wei. and then Vitakorn Anthropouthak in 7th. In 8th position was the 87 machine of Wanbo. 9th was the number 3 Climax Racing car, qualified by Hu Yuchi, and in 10th position was the 992 of Bao Yinglong. Ferrari's back in the pits. Now there are various bits of regulations to say how you're allowed to park in the pit lane. So they need to kind of get that car positioned at 45 degrees before they do any kind of work on the car. You can use the dolly jacks to get them rotated. Welcome back to Team JHAAI, the 2 very good-looking BMW M4s. We've got Yusan Chen and Jesse Krohn in 1. Let's go down to Jamie again.
Anthony, you're coming in quite, hard into this weekend. P2 isn't that bad. Quite did one though. What are you looking forward to?
It's a disappointing qualifying, to say the least. We had a really, really tough Thursday and Friday. We had a power steering pump failure that we didn't know about until it shut down Friday, free practice 1. Then we found out why we were so much off the pace on Thursday. And subsequently on Friday, we had to chase that up, play catch up. Today is the first time I ever, had to put a proper lap together with new tires. So, yeah.
Wait, so the last minute you came in and went out again. Did you
I prepped Dan so he can get pole position. Yeah.
Great teamwork.
Like I did in Suzuka for him. Yeah.
Let's cross our fingers for him. And you're starting.
He better.
You're starting front row, so I'm gonna come back for an interview with you.
Oh yeah, I'll get him at the start. Don't worry.
All right. Thank you very much. Back to you.
Well, great job then by Anthony Liu for getting a good feeling, feeling enough for a front row start. He should not be disappointed at all with that, considering the issues that he's had across the last couple of days with that car. But now the pace changes, the intensity changes with our pro drivers in the cars now. And some incredible names, as we've come to expect in this series. Dennis Lind aboard the number 2 machine. Patrick Pilet is here in the number 4. As we move a bit further down, we've got Danny Ucadella, of course, in the 37 that we've just heard from his teammate, Anthony Liu, gunning for the championship for his teammate Alvaro Parente. Maximilian Gutz also here with us. The 2 BMWs we just saw with Works drivers Jesse Krohn and Jens Klingman. Brock Feeney from Australia, Klaus Bachler. World-renowned racing drivers. And one driver that's particularly we should welcome to the championship, Eduardo Mutara, joining the 992 team this weekend. And this is his first ever Fanatec GT World Challenge Asia powered by AWS. He spent so many of his early years doing GT racing until refocusing on Formula E. And during the Formula E years, didn't really do a lot of GTs, but recently announced as departing his berth at what was the Venturi team and now is the Maserati team. Means he's a bit of a free agent, and no doubt will be focusing on a little bit of racing in Asia over the next couple of months, because one of his favourite races in the world coming up in November, the 75th Macau Grand Prix, where the GT World Cup once again will be happening, and Eduardo, a sometime multiple winner of the World Cup. Leaning on that Mercedes. I think he may be first. He was first out the pit, so yeah, he's got a lot of clear track ahead of him. All 4 wheels off the circuit. at that point. Race control will be monitoring and deleting lap times if you do run off the track. Monitoring the circuit at 4, at turn 6, at turn 8 and at turn 14 on the exit curves. And the rule is white line. The white line's been rubbed off at that point, but you must have at least your inside wheels in the white line. Clearly off track there, but again, not a place that's being monitored necessarily. Can only monitor certain amounts of the circuit. That was okay. Inside wheels on the white line, that is legal. I have that Ferrari in the braking zone coming into the final hairpin. Is he going to have to get out the throttle? No, Ferrari's got out the way. Good work. So Danny Ucadella is going to be the first one then to give us a benchmark in Q2 here from GT3 cars. And straight away into the 204.2. Purple final sector of the lap. I think others are going better further back. But that is only Danny's first attempt. So 992, Eduardo Mutara's lap time deleted straight away. And that's what we can expect from these guys. We didn't see any lap times deleted in the first of our sessions, did we? But these pro drivers will be absolutely pushing the limits of the cars and of the track. And sometimes that means you end up just overstepping the limit a little bit. Having a look then at the Earl Bamber Motorsport number 61. They've had a bit of a shimmy with their driver lineups this weekend. So we've now got Reid Harker aboard the 61 car, was aboard the 60 car before, sorry, not the 60 car, but he's now teammate to Adrian De Silva. And Adrian De Silva was our last time winner. Let's go back to May 2022, when we visited the circuit at the start of the 2022 season. And Adrian De Silva for Earl Bamber Motorsport, taking victory with Earl Bamber at that point. And of course he partnered Earl Bamber last time out at Okayama, but this time Reid has jumped aboard that car because their second car, the number 8 machine, now has Tanat Satandirikul. And welcome back to Tanat as well. Haven't seen him since the end of 2022. Great to have the Thai driver back with us. And it should be in this session. Klaus Bachler comes across the line. Nice to have Klaus back in the field, and he goes up to provisional pole with half the session still remaining. That is what Vitakorn Interpuvasak needs from his professional teammate. The only victory to Vitakorn's name this year came with Klaus Bachler in Suzuka. And it's only the second time, actually, that Klaus has been part of that team, because for the rest of the season, Alessio Piccarello has been part of that team. Picked up many, many podiums, 6 in total. Ishan Perez, great effort in the Be Quick Absolute Racing Audi. That is really good work. It shows that there might still be some pace to come. And I've noticed that Juncadella and Harker into the pits already. So a change in the tyre pressures, a tweak of the setup for Juncadella to head back out on circuit and have another go. And it might well be the same for Reid Harker. To the line, Kamimura. Oh, good final sector in the Porsche. And the number 18 car goes up to pole position. That is a very strong effort from the Ozakai Porsche Center driver. there was a few cars behind that improved. Kung Fu Chen, Nickel Mack, but nobody could topple Kamimura's pace there, and so he sits a tenth of a second clear. But there's still lots of lap times still to come. We've got 29 GT3 cars and only 25 times on the board, despite just 6 minutes remaining of the session. James Yu, here's the pole car from Q1, up to 8th position in the hands of James Yu. And sits in a sandwich of BMWs there. Jens Klingmann in 7th and Jesse Krohn in 9th position. Lap times continue to be deleted though, so we have to really be careful about getting too excited. Eduardo Mutara's had another lap time deleted. He's really attracting the attention of our stewards. Mutara sits 17th only. Over the line, Jesse Krohn up to 2nd spot in the BMW M4. It's taken a while to get that car up to pace, but now it's working with 5 minutes remaining. Mikael Grenier, faster than anybody else in Sector 2, and he's just about held on to go provisional pole, but look at the gap. Gave away a bit of time in the final sector to Kamimura. But that will be very good news for Prince Abubakar, his teammate, who sits in the garage watching on, dreaming of going one better than his elder brother did last year. Well, that's a nice little slipstream that Patrick Pilet's going to get. Sorry, Dennis. No, it is Patrick Pilet, number 4. Now I'm very confused. Oh, Dennis Linda's in the Mercedes on our timing. Now, where did Pilet end that lap? I think he got a little bit caught. And Pilet only 10th position. Those they've changed that car wing mirrors since yesterday. Dennis Lind over the line. First time we get a chance to have a look at the Climax Racing livery for the weekend. And Lind up to 9th position, just ahead of Brock Feeney, who rejoins the 888 car. And let's not forget that was the car that took victory in race 1 last year, 888. Jeffrey Ibrahim taking the victory and taking the runner-up in the championship. Richie Stanaway's been aboard that car for part of the season when Brock's had duties over in Australia, but back for the final round and just running a few seconds behind the 888 teammate. Grenier on the pole position. Feeney finishes his lap at only 10th position, so less and less opportunity here for improving lap time. Alvaro Parente has had a shocker of a season so far, finds himself on the pole position, the Portuguese driver. Great effort from the Portuguese. 2.5 tenths ahead of the rest. I really do hope that sticks. Well, I tell you what, we've only got 2.5 minutes remaining of this session, and we've got a pretty topsy-turvy grid right now. Where's Danny Ucadella, for instance? Only 15th position, 1.3 seconds down. He's going to have to pull something out of the bag here, as the Porsche of Patrick Pilet improves up to 2nd spot. Jens Klingmann, this is not going to be a good lap for him. He's been compromised in the middle sector, but if he's saved anything, he can go again in the final sector, in the final, well, he's actually got the opportunity for one more lap. So maybe this now will be Klingmann's push lap. So of our championship challengers, Patrick Pilet finds himself doing a stunning job for Lu Wei, the least likely of our drivers to be able to take the crown because of the gap to the leading car. But Pilet on the front row. You then have to go down to Klaus Bachler in 9th position, the next of our championship challengers. Michael Grenier in 3rd, sorry, I missed this particular car. This is going to be a slow lap, and actually Grenier comes into the pit, so he hasn't got anything left with just a minute on the clock. It's still a very, very good effort from Michael Grenier, who I think is spending his first weekend here at the Sepang International Circuit. Not sure he's ever been here before. But the real question mark is, where has the pace of Danny Juncadella gone? He's just come across the line, so he is able to start another lap. And Mikael Mack comes over the line and doesn't improve. But Danny Juncadella, 13th position only. There was a slight improvement in the final sector of that last lap, but surely this now is well, it's the last opportunity, but is there anything left in the tyre to be able to do anything? D-Station for the first time racing outside of Japan with Fanatec GT World Challenge Asia, as the Ferrari in the background faces the wrong direction. 21st for Tomofuji, and he's going to get caught a little bit in traffic here. This car is going to stick around in Sepang, by the way, and will be taking part at the start of December in the opening round of the Asian Le Mans Series. It grumbles over the line, that wonderful Aston Martin engine. Now, what about Danny Juncadella? Where is he? It's 0.4 of a second off in the first sector of the lap. But this is not good for the hopes of Craft Bamboo. They've got a really good opportunity in race 1. Anthony Liu suddenly will realise what kind of a job he's done, getting himself on the front row. Maxi Götz, only 27th position. He's had a lap time deleted, I noticed, the last lap, so this got to be an improvement, up to 12th spot, ahead of Jens Klindman. The Ferrari's got going again. But, right, Juncadella has improved in the middle sector of the lap. So there's got to be an improvement from Juncadella. Oh, it's only 12th spot. Look at the timing screen he has completed, and it's only 12th position. There's a cluster of Mercedes, 10th, 11th, 12th and 13th. And suddenly in the hands of the pro drivers, the field looks totally different, and totally different really to the form book. Alvaro Parent for Hub Auto trundles down pit lane, and he is our pole position. That car shared with Maurice Chen. I have to scroll very far down the championship order to find just 10 points to Hub Auto's name this year. A point score last time out and a point score in Thailand at the very start of the year. But they've now got themselves a pole position. Well done to Alvaro Parent. It's going to be an all Porsche front row with Patrick Pilet alongside him. And then Michael Grenier and Kamimura on row 2. Yi and Krohn on row 3. Now that's a really tricky one for Alvaro Parente there, because no doubt on Sunday morning we are going to be talking championship, and he's got Pilet and Grenier directly behind him, who are fighting for that championship. They are the ones that really will need to make a big difference, because the ones with the points advantage, Klaus Bachler down in 9th, and Juncadella down in 12th position, they'll they'll need big scores to get themselves back into contention, and Alvaro Parente will be the man controlling the pace and having all of that going on around him. Especially that very tricky first turn. Tightens and tightens and tightens. It's incredibly long as it sweeps right. And then you've got the hard braking into turn 2. And can always have a few issues. Dennis Lind had his last lap deleted, the number 2. So he's dropped down to 10th position. Race control still monitoring that. It's funny, isn't it? In first qualifying, we really didn't have any issues. But in with the pro drivers, they've really been taking advantage. Let's go down to the pits then. I saw Amy is getting Alvaro Parente, who was just taking off his helmet. And I imagine there's a very large smile on that Portuguese man's face. Where did that pace come from? Nearly 0.2 of a second clear over Patrick Pilet. You wouldn't call it domination, but in a field that's half a tenth here and half a tenth there, it really is a big chunk. There's less than half a tenth separating all the other cars, basically down to 14th position, where there's then a 10.5 second gap. But Patrick Pilet trails Alvaro Parente by just shy of 0.2 of a second. Let's go down to Amy then. Perez is ready.
Alvaro, great job. Super pole position. Congratulations. How do you feel?
No, I feel great. Look, it's been a long year with a lot of progress during the races, and we got to the final round and put it on pole. So I think the last 4 qualifyings was like 6th, 3rd, and 1st. So I mean, we're on the right direction, right? But really happy. Big thank you to Hub Auto Racing. Phil gave me a great car. Morris, we're on it and we're ready for the last race weekend. It's been a tough season with some contacts in some of the races, but look, it's hard racing, and we'll see if we can have a clean run this afternoon and tomorrow morning. But real happy. Big thank you to the team, and really looking forward to driving the car later on this afternoon.
And your personal feelings, it must feel great to be starting pole position on the very final race of the season. Yeah,
it's, I mean, we've been heading the right direction on the last races, so it's been going really well, but you know, you want to leave on the last round and have a great qualifying session, and we did it. You know, now we're just hoping for some clean races, but it's great. The first time we tested the car was here at the preseason testing, 2 days. So, and already I feel really good with this track too. I know it very well from the past, single seaters and GTs. So was feeling very confident with the car, track, everything. So let's see what we can do today and tomorrow.
Thank you very much, and enjoy the weekend.
Thank you very much.
Back to you.
Alvaro Parente then from Porto in Portugal, a city with plenty of motorsport heritage, street circuit that existed all the way from the 1950s up to about 10 years ago. Kart track just an hour away, the Braga circuit. And Parente spent a lot of his early years racing over here in Asia, including the GP2 Asian series, which existed for a few years to give single-seater drivers an opportunity to race over the winter months outside of the usual European GP2 series season. But that was a long time ago. Here then are the points going into this weekend. Anthony Liu, as we've said before, just a single point ahead of Vutakorn Interpuvisak. And then the only 2 other drivers that are here this weekend that can win the title, Prince Abubakar Ibrahim and Liu Wei. Luke Stoltz and Alessandro Picciarello not here this weekend, although they're only a point shy of Liu Wei. So in theory, could have come and won the championship, although their teammates that they would be racing with both had more points than them, so actually they would always lose out to their teammate. Danny Ucadella in 6th position, Dennis Olsen not with us this weekend in 7th. Then that car that we have on pole position for race 1, Andrew Harrianto and James Yu. I think we're going to see them vault themselves up the championship order. That's almost a cert actually. And the rest of our top 10. There's a little investigation undergoing between what I think is both Craft Bamboo Mercedes. Here are the highlights then from qualifying. And Anthony Liu it was who had clear track ahead of him in Q1 and was able to put down the early benchmark despite the issues that they had with power steering yesterday and a lack of running on a new tyre. Whilst Anthony Liu was comfortable in the car, Danny Ucadella was certainly not as comfortable. That car outside the top 10 in the hands of the pro driver, and certainly work to do for Craft Bamboo. EBM bringing 2 Porsches this weekend. A welcome return to Tanart Sathentirikul as Reid Harker moves into the 61 non-points scoring Porsche. More and more Australians and New Zealanders joining Fanatec GT World Challenge Asia. And the 88 car in championship contention, Michael Grenier driving the car in Q2. And that car has 2 strong qualifying performances in the hands of Prince Abubakar and in Michael Grenier. Watch out for the Mercedes. Will be on row 2, but will be stuffed up behind Alvaro Parente going into turn 1. On the outside of turn 1 will be Patrick Pilet in this number 4 Porsche. But that's happening on Sunday. It might not even have a chance to win the championship by that point, depending on what they can do in the first race of our weekend, which comes up this afternoon here in Asia. Pilet back aboard the Porsche that Dennis Olsen sometimes has been aboard. But a surprise pole position in Q2 from Alvaro Parente. Hub Auto, just 10 points to their name across the season. Now they need to convert the pole into a chunky score of points come race end on Sunday. Parente and Maurice Chen, race 2 pole. We are not done yet, because following the GT3 qualifying, we do have qualifying for GT4. And it's a welcome return to the number 39 machine, which we saw last time out in Okayama, but they missed Fuji, Suzuka and Motegi. And it is the Toyota Gazoo Racing Indonesia Toyota Supra GT4 of Manapo and Siet Noka. Just one GT4 car, so let's focus a little bit more on what's going on with GT3.
Great job, Patrick. P2 is not bad, I guess. And for you guys, you need a big score this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my quali was okay. I mean, congrats to Alvaro. He did a great job. It's good to front lock with the Porsche. My lap was just a lot of traffic in my best lap, so I have to slow down and try again. And the peak of the tire was gone. But yeah, we have been quick all weekend. For sure, we need to score a lot of points for Lou to get a chance. But you know, everything can happen in racing, so we're gonna see what happened in the first corner, especially.
Okay. Have a great race tomorrow then.
Thank you.
And today, obviously.
Thank you.
Yes. Back to you.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, great qualifying for tomorrow's race, but it matters not if they don't get a decent chunk of points today. And so Pilet will be under pressure in his stint, which will be the second stint, to really perform. And there tends to be fireworks when it's a championship showdown, so we can expect lots going on our Saturday race. So here is our sole GT4 entry for this weekend. Haridama Manopo, the Indonesian driver, is our first driver, and the format stays the same, so we have 15-minute qualifying for the first driver, and then we have a 15-minute qualifying for Saita Nonaka, who is the second of the drivers in that car. And of course, you can't really do anything with the sessions just because there is one car. You can't turn around and say, well, you don't need to qualify because there is only one ar. Well, then you're taking lap time away. Had a quick chat with the guys from Toyota Gazoo Racing Indonesia and said, are you going to save the car, going to park it up and just do a single lap because you're guaranteed the pole anyway, you're guaranteed the points? And they said, no. We're racing the conditions, we're racing the circuit as much as we're racing other competitors. It's a very rally philosophy, but they want to do the very, very best that they can. And so we're going to see this car lapping this Malaysian circuit over the next half an hour, trying to get their best lap time. What this appearance here in Malaysia does guarantee is that with the 2 victories in Buriram, they were on their own there and took 2 victories. And they joined the Okayama GT4 only race. Let's not forget that the race, which was very different in Okayama to the rest of the season, in Okayama they had their own race. So GT4s and GT3s were split. And that actually did encourage up to 7 GT4 cars to take the start in Okayama, including this Indonesian-based Toyota Gazoo Racing team travelling over to Okayama to partake. And there they showed that they are the class of the field there, because they got the victory in race 1, and then they finished second in race 2. And so with 2 guaranteed maximum point scores here in Malaysia, they will end up second in the championship. And they've got an onboard camera, so we get a chance to really see this Malaysian circuit from a driver's eye point of view. Very different style of driving, a GT4 car to a GT3. Take away so much of the aerodynamics that push the GT3 cars into the tarmac. The GT4 car really feels a lot more on the edge. And actually, one of the characteristics of the Supra GT4, due to the balance of performance, is it sits quite high. It's minimum ride height in comparison to other brands in the GT4 series is quite high, and so you get a chance to see and feel the car moving around a lot underneath the driver. And we're coming up now to the final corner of the lap, and then we'll get a real chance to try and talk you through as much as possible the challenges of the circuit, because it is a real challenge. Highly important final turn, because this big, long, nearly a kilometre front straight needs you to get up to maximum velocity as quickly as possible, hitting over 200 kilometres an hour and trying to pick out the braking point into turn 1. But actually the slowest point of turn 1 is 3/4 the way round it before you then turn left through the apex and the rear end of that Toyota moving around. Through turns 3 and up towards the Langkawi curve, which is a big stop. The nose dips on the Supra, the rear end goes light. That helps you turn the car through the apex. One of of our slower corners, and then these long sweeping turns at 4 and 5 and 6. And a real challenge in a GT4 car to make sure you keep the car on circuit. He does so. Completes the first sector of the lap. Not as quick as his first attempt, but look how close it was. Now through 7 and 8 and down to the next big stop, which is turn 9. Again, this time it's a bit of a downhill braking zone, so easy to slightly go deep there. And you're climbing back uphill now as you head towards turns, well, 10 is an acceleration zone. That is 11, called Kengia Lake. And now we're going back down through 12 and 13. And again, you're leaning on the car so much. You're asking so much in a GT4 car to the tyres to grip. And then what is actually a very tricky turn 14, Sunway Lagoon. As you turn in there, you're trying again to turn and slow the car down at the same time, and easy to lose the rear end. Long, big back straight, Pengan Street. Hook the apex and accelerate out of the turn. They actually changed the profile of that last turn in 2016 by adding a load of earth to the inside of the turn and really rising up. And if you look at old footage of the circuit in its early years and the Formula One years, it didn't look like that. It was much more of a flatter curb, but back in 2016, ahead of the last of the Grand Prix, they decided to modify it and give it a real challenge. And it's a particular challenge in the wet, because all the car wants to do is slide outwards. And what you'll find is a racing line there in the wet conditions ends up being all the way around the outside, as though you're going into the pits. Now, it does look to me as though this is either a cool down lap or that is it. 4 minutes done. They've done a 2:15.1. But this is a lot more cruisy. Now these hot conditions, 30 degrees air temperature, might be worth trying to do a cooler lap time. Bring the tyres temperatures down a little bit, because they have an operating window in which they work at their best. Very, very easy to push them over that window, especially in qualifying, where you will set the pressures of the tyre, which influences the temperature of the tyre. You will set that at a very different pressure to what you would do in the race conditions, because in the race conditions the tyre needs to last for the full hour, whereas obviously in qualifying conditions you need that peak to come in as soon as possible. And so what you are able to do quite easily when pushing is to push the tyre over its peak, and you need to then slow down and ask less of the surface area to make it work. But it's an in-lap for the number 39. No, it's not. No, it's not. I lie. He's going again. Right, this is one more push then. Let's see if he can improve. It's like time attack, isn't it? A 2:15.11 is his target. And let's go on board and see exactly how he manages it. 230 kilometers now, braking down into turn 1. Stays in third gear just to try and settle the rear as much as possible as you flick left and now get the power back on. The rear end you can see moving around a lot from the little corrections he's doing with the steering wheel. And now a chance to relax the body before you come into the braking zone at turn 4, Langkawi. Again, the rear end dancing around under brakes. Does that very, very nicely as well. Over the brow of the hill, back down the hill once again through 5. done that very nicely. Wait until it turns white before turning to the right-hand side. Clips the curb, lets the car run wide, but keeps it on the circuit crucially, and he's just under a tenth faster than his previous best. That's displayed on the screen as well. He'll in fact have mini sectors on his dashboard, so he'll know every 50 meters if he's doing better or worse than his previous lap time. Look at the lights on the dashboard. He's got lights to tell him when to change up. He's also got lights to tell him if he's locking a brake or not, or the ABS is kicking in. And you'll see that under hard braking zones. I don't think you can see the right-hand ones, but you can see the left-hand ones. He's a fraction slower in the middle sector, but it's still a better time overall. There are those lights on the left-hand side flashing to say you're at the limit of your braking. It's gone through turn 14. One final braking zone to absolutely nail, and it's so easy to miss. Waits till the cut through comes in, nurses the car to the apex. He's hooked that up nicely, gets on the power as the car almost walks itself to the curb. Is this going to be a better lap time from Manopo? A 2:15.11 to beat, and it's a slow final sector, so he misses out. Well, that was entertaining, wasn't it? And now it will be take the car back to the pits in a good condition and hand it over to teammate. The checker flag did actually come out just after he crossed the line, so in theory he could go again, but with the window of the tyre and also the fact you've got to use that tyre for the race as well, you don't want to do too many laps on it. And give it and take out too much of its life. I think he's got it left in a low gear, so cruising back to the pit lane. But nice to see the work done through that steering wheel around this circuit. And there's so much more to come from the GT4 series. Such an incredibly popular series across the world. Look at the upcoming GT4 6-hour race, expecting up to 50 to 60 cars in Vallelunga at the end of October. And the European series always oversubscribed with cars. Some of the national championships over in Europe using GT4 as their national championship, an idea to keep the costs down. So in British GT, for instance, you have the GT3 category as your main British championship, but there is a separate category, much like there is here for GT4 cars. But in France, you can't race a GT3 car in the national championship. There is only a championship for GT4s. And the idea in Okayama to open up a GT4 only field certainly went down very well. YZ Racing with BMW winning the championship in Okayama last time out, making their championship lead unassailable with 6 victories across the championship of 10 rounds. They didn't take part in Buriram, which basically meant that they only missed out on 2 occasions. In Fuji, where they got penalised along with most of the field for not obeying the safety car procedure, and then in Okayama in the first race, where this car took victory. So, fresh tyres for driver number 2. Sita Nonaka, who is the silver driver. And of course, the other very different thing about a GT4 car versus a GT3 is they don't have central wheel locks. Some GT4 cars do, but this is much more conventional style to take tyres on and off. So if you are needing to do a pit stop mid-race, and that is highly possible here, to be fair, during our 2 encounters, depending on what the weather gods decide, it takes a lot longer in GT4 to take the 4 wheel nuts off, or is it 5? And it's 5 on this car. And you don't just take one single nut off in the middle. Gave us an absolutely spectacular GT4 race in Europe in Paul Ricard, where the fastest strategy was to leave slick tyres on when it was bucketing it down with rain and survive, because a 5-minute pit stop to put wet tyres on was not able to be caught up on track. So you had cars on wet tyres flying through the field, but because they'd spent 5 minutes getting those tyres onto the car mid-race, they were unable to get themselves to the head. One more lap, amazingly, so often in motorsport, one more lap was all that was needed for a wet tyre to win, but in the end, those that stuck it out on a dry tyre in wet conditions managed to get themselves the victory. That's one to watch, one to look up if you haven't seen this year's GT4 race from Paul Ricard on the GT World Challenge YouTube library of races. So tyres have been done. I do see them putting the dolly jacks under. And presumably that is just to reposition the car to its 45-degree angle as per the regulation. There we go. This is a perfect display from Toyota Gazoo Racing of how to do. Let's go down to Amy, who has the first of our drivers in that car.
Ardama.
Yes.
This is quite a fun but tricky and challenging track, I guess.
Yes,
How was
right.
the Supra feeling on it?
Okay, for me this is actually not the first time I'm doing race in the sini. A few years ago I do race but with the small car. Yeah, for me this circuit little bit tricky and very challenging. It's,
How are you satisfied with your time? It's 2:15:11.
okay, yeah. You know, because now in this race, same again like in Thailand, we race alone. So my team and me and maybe Nonaka-san just trying to the best to get the record of the GT4 class in this race. Yeah.
Are you enjoying it though?
Oh, of course, because I love racing. So yeah, must enjoy.
So good luck on the weekend then.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Back to you.
Yes, I'd forgotten about that. When we spoke to the team yesterday, they told us their objective was to get the record for GT4. Now, a lap record can only be taken during a race session. So their qualifying times won't count towards the lap record, but they are aiming for a lap record for GT4 cars around Sepang. And trying to find what that is. Seito Nonaka, Japanese driver, the silver in this car. He'll be happy for the Toyota Gazoo Racing Indonesia team to find themselves racing in Japan next year. This is a recognized Indonesian, let's say, works entry. Whenever you come across the name Toyota Gazoo Racing, that denotes the works support from Toyota for their campaign. So it was a 2:15:11, if memory serves correct, for teammate for driver number 1. Now we would expect Seita to go better than that. He is the silver driver. Well, I thought the way that the car was hustled in Q1 was looked pretty good. So over the line then, and Let's see what Saito Nanaka can do. Not a heavy, big, fat braking zone into turn 1, like you see from some of the other braking zones, because you're nursing the car almost 180 degrees before you get to the apex. And so you're coaxing the car in. Too hard a braking, you'd lose the rear end of the car. Too light a braking, then you'd understeer wide. And if you understeer wide in turn 1, it puts you in the wrong place for turn 2. So it's a real tricky corner. Very similar to that of the Shanghai International Circuit in China. It's continuous, long right-hander followed by a left. What I love about this Malaysian circuit, 25 years old, designed by Herman Tilke, one of his earlier tracks actually. Realised that Herman Tilke only started designing tracks in 1996. This must have been his first proper build of a racetrack, because he modified the A1 ring, and that was his first project in '96. And it wasn't until '99, or I suppose he was working on these projects over those interim years, '99, when they opened the circuit. This was one of his early projects. And it's good to see that it hasn't needed to be modified much over time. It's had a new surface. As I say, they did change that profile of the last turn, but even to this day, still used in the MotoGP World Championship, the last round this year. And previously we've seen the 12 hours here, of course. Intercontinental making it part of that World Series, and World Touring Cars and World TCR here over the years. And so, over the line, Nanaka does a 2:20.4. So actually that wasn't a massive push from him. Maybe this next one will be. Let's go on board again. So patient through those first 2 turns, because if you don't get a good exit in turn 2, then it influences all the way up to here until you can get back on the brakes again. Oh, he's just a little bit deep there, just missing the turn 4 apex. Watch, instantly, as soon as he turned in, the rear end trying to step away from him. A little bit of corrective lock, both on entry and then on exit as well. Tokyo Drift style through turn 7 and 8. Another really cool corner, accelerating in the early part of it and then braking, but really not changing the trajectory of the steering at all. Pitches the car into turn 12. 13 becomes an accelerating zone. Then you try and straighten it up for the braking of 14. He's got a good exit through there. This is going to be a much better lap. 2:20.4 was the first attempt. And he's 4.7 seconds better in Sector 2 alone, 2.8 seconds better in Sector 1. So I think he is going to go better than his teammate, as we would expect. Again, just a fraction deep through the final turn. Does get the apex with a huge amount of opposite lock all the way through the exit of the corner towards the line now. And it's a 14.5. So finding a huge chunk of time. And that on the edge driving that we saw in so many of the corners, where he's correcting the slide and bringing the car back and forwards, is exactly why Now, let's have a look at this. This is the last turn. We saw from onboard a bit of understeer in the early part, and then a lot of oversteer on the exit. Yeehaw! There you go. You see how he's really leaning on that rear right tyre through here, flick it on, and then the left rear is doing all the work, all the sticking to hold the car to where he wants it to go. But there's quite a bit of oversteer dialed into that car again through turn 8, as we saw the previous lap, sliding out of there. He's going again. This is a second push. He's found half a tenth in the first sector. He's having a couple of bites at the throttle coming out of turn 9. Runs the gauntlet around the outside to open up this one as much as possible. And that will soon be sector 2 out of the way. Yeah, and a second push lap, usually on these Pirelli tyres, when you're working them as much as Saito-san is doing, usually the second lap is not as fast. And we did see him struggle down there at turn 9 to get the car out of the corner. And he's a country mile wide there at the final turn as well, so a little messy second encounter for Saito Nanaka. And will actually ends up only 0.3 of a second slower. He was better in that final sector than his previous lap time. And so that's where you then go into your telemetry and look at the data and look at the sectors and go, right, so you were better in the middle sector on the first lap, but you were better in the final sector on the second lap. How can we do an ultimate best across the whole track? Where did you improve? And the telemetry systems that these guys have in the pit boxes will allow them to overlay throttle traces and steering traces over one lap to the other lap to give him a much better idea of how he found that 2.5 tenths of a second in the final lap, because in the final sector of the lap, I should say. Because really, there is an apex to turn 14, but it's influenced by turn 13, which is in the previous sector. And then you've got the braking zone into turn 15. And what I saw anyway was that he was pretty wide going through the final turn. So he braked later, but didn't get the apex. And the effect of that will also show up, or would show up in split times, in split 1 of the next lap, because if you're slow out of the last turn, then you don't carry as much speed down the straight, and therefore your start of your next lap is compromised. So even as a silver driver, still plenty of work that can be done to look at the data. Well, you see it in Formula 1, don't you? Even the world's best drivers will be analysing data and working out how they can go better and worse. Well, they're not going to work out how they're going to go worse, but they can see what they've done badly versus what they've done well, using that telemetry system. So, round the final turn, we're going to go again by the looks of things. A little bit of oversteer on the exit. Didn't quite get the power delivery that he needed. And the dashboard shows 6th gear going into turn 1, 230 kilometers an hour. Of course, as you're braking, those front tyres are desperately trying to lock up, which would then really affect the trajectory going through that first turn. Managed it well. Part locking fronts, the rear end trying to swap end. It can be a real challenge. Ooh, wasabi peas. Lovely. Bit of a powerful snack for the morning. Look at the black line that Saito-san leaves He's leaving everything on the table for this last attempt. Really wants to get a better lap time. Through 6, Genting. And down to KLIA curve. It's a mouthful. 7 and 8. And he's 0.6 of a second off in that first sector. Now that won't necessarily be anything to do with his driving. It will just be that the best of the tyre, the best grip of the tyre has already been used up in the first 2 attempts. And he just doesn't have enough left to go again. You can hear the tyres, in fact. It's almost like a ride and drive indoor go-karting where the tyres squeal over the concrete surface, the polished concrete surface. Now, this is Bittman and Pirelli rubber squealing at each other as well. It's not going to be a better lap time from Saito Nonaka. It's given too much away in the first 2 sectors of the lap. And comes out of the final turn. Takes a checkered flag. Now he could go again. 20 seconds left on the clock. He hasn't taken the flag. And maybe he will go again. Whoa. Really left his braking very, very late there. You can always recover that though because of the way the circuit goes, even if you go a little bit deep. As long as you get the car back to the apex, it really doesn't matter. Checkered flag is out now, so this is his last attempt. He's at full chat, isn't he? Hard braking. Those lights on the left-hand side flashing, saying that the ABS systems are working. If they're flashing on the exit of corners, that says that the traction control is working. Oh, he's just got so much oversteer. Every time he touches the throttle, the rear end stepping away from him. And again, throws it through 7 and 8. What a racetrack this is, I have to say. I remember as a kid on the computer games loving the Malaysian Grand Prix track. And this is bringing back great memories. It's been part of the championship since the inception of the Fanatec GT World Challenge Asia, but always as the first round of the championship, never as the final round. But as I learnt last night, there's absolutely no difference in weather, whether it be in May or in September. In most parts of the world, you'd have a different climate, but here in Malaysia, pretty much the same all year. Hot, humid, and chances of rain. Yesterday it was raining just 15 kilometres away from the track all day, but here at the track, we had a dry day and pretty humid. And we're expecting rain showers today as well, but if the forecast is anything like yesterday, it cannot be trusted. Certainly my forecast can't. Saito Nonaka then brings the 39 Toyota into the pit lane, and they have qualified for both of our races. And we'll be looking forward to getting lots of time to chat about 2024 and building and growing the GT4 Championship. Hearing lots of interest already for next year, and the opportunity to have the GT4 field, which is considerably less expensive than GT3. A really good stepping stone as well, feeding drivers into the GT3 category. Nonaka then half a second faster than his teammates. Only half a second. I think that's a pretty good effort for those two drivers. And it's all smiles down at Toyota Gazoo Racing Indonesia. And there's Amy, look. not entirely sure whether the Naka will be massively happy with the lap, because he was able to go faster in sectors 1 and 3 on the next lap, but it's the middle sector of the lap which meant that he wasn't able to improve. So he actually hasn't done a, let's say, perfect lap where all 3 sectors were better than he had managed previously. There's a combination of 2 different laps there which would make a better lap time. It would bring you nearly down into the 13s. A reminder that we go racing this afternoon at around 3:45 local time. That's 7:45 GMT, if you're working on that clock. And of course, being summertime, GMT +2, I think, is UTC. Don't take that as gospel. But we will have our final 2 rounds of this year's championship here from Malaysia. Race 1 on Saturday afternoon, race 2 on Sunday lunchtime. It has never ever been wrapped up with a race to spare, the GT World Challenge Asia Championship. Always has gone down to the wire, but Anthony Liu or Vitakorn into Puvasak will be looking to do that this afternoon. Let's go down to Amy once more.
野中選手、ツイッターの方でもですね、面白いけど難しいトラックっておっしゃってたんですけれども、どんなところがその発言に至ったんでしょうか。
そうですね、やっぱ幅広いっていう、SNS の方では発言したんですけど、進入部分の幅とコーナー出口の幅が違う部分だったりとか、そういったところが攻め具合がどのぐらいでいったらいいのかっていうのが非常に難しいコースだなっていうふうに思ってます。
So first of all, about the track, because when you enter the corners, it's quite wide, but when you exit, it's quite narrow. So that has been quite tricky for him, but enjoying it so far. で、コースレコード GT4 塗り替えました。おめでとうございます。
ありがとうございます。ただチームとして望んでた目標タイムに届かなかったんで、ちょっと僕のアタックラップもセクター全部まとめることはできてなかったんで、ちょっと悔しいなっていうのはありますけど、とりあえずは良かったです。
週末、楽しんでレース頑張ってください。
はい、ありがとうございます。
お疲れ様でした。So about the course record, they did not get quite the record they wanted to have. So that was a little bit lacking there, but he's still happy to be having the course record at the moment, and he will try his best on the weekend. Back to you. ありがとうございます。
I think if he combines his best sectors, he'll have the course record. It's there somewhere. Just didn't quite hook all 3 sectors up on the same lap. Got a few different support races here in Malaysia to fill the time during the day. An eclectic mix of race cars. But we will join you at 3:45 local time for the penultimate round of this year's championship. See you then.